Drake's been through his share of drama, but his latest speech at a Toronto party felt different, almost like a confession. In front of a distracted crowd, he aired his frustrations, calling out the people he once trusted for switching up on him. Let's talk about why this moment was so shocking and what it says about the darker side of success in the music industry. The Nostalgia Party was supposed to be a night of fun and celebration, with Toronto buzzing as Tyrone T-Rex hosted the event. People were there to vibe and reminisce, enjoying the atmosphere and the music. And then, in the middle of all this, Drake made a surprise appearance. Now you can imagine the crowd's reaction. Everyone's hyped to see him, right? But things took a strange turn when Drake decided to give a speech that wasn't exactly in line with the party's mood. Instead of keeping things light, he got real personal. And that's where it gets interesting. So what exactly did Drake say? He started by addressing the crowd, saying, "My real friends are definitely in the building, but people you thought were friends might switch up." And just like that, it was clear this wasn't going to be your typical party shout-out. Drake's message was all about betrayal, about how people he once trusted had changed. What made it even more awkward was the fact that most of the crowd wasn't really paying attention. They were still caught up in the party, talking and enjoying themselves while Drake was airing out his frustrations. You've got to imagine how odd that must have felt for him, standing there and realizing that the people around him weren't even tuned into what he was saying. It's like giving a heartfelt speech to a room that's not really listening. Now, let's be honest. This isn't the first time we've heard an artist talk about fake friends, especially in the music industry. In fact, it's almost become a cliche at this point. The industry is built on relationships, but a lot of them are transactional. People gravitate towards those who are successful, not necessarily because of genuine friendship, but because they want something. It's about power, leverage, and status. And for someone like Drake, who's been at the top for so long, it must be exhausting to figure out who's real and who's not. Personally, I can't say I'm surprised that he's feeling this way. Almost every major artist at some point seems to go through this phase where they question who they can trust. It's the price of fame, right? Van Lathan, a media personality, tweeted something that really struck a chord with me when he responded to this whole situation. He said, "Drake's friends didn't switch up, they just don't have to tolerate him anymore." That's such a sharp point because it speaks to the reality of how relationships shift in the industry. When you're at the top, people put up with things they wouldn't normally tolerate because of your status. But as soon as they don't need you anymore, or as soon as the power dynamic changes, their true colors show. And I think that's what Drake's experiencing now. People who were once around him because of his influence don't feel the need to keep up the charade anymore. What makes this whole situation even more interesting is how the crowd reacted or didn't react to Drake's speech. Most people there weren't even paying attention, continuing their conversations and having a good time. It's like the serious tone of what Drake was saying didn't even register with them. Imagine being in his shoes, trying to be open and vulnerable, and then realizing that no one cares. It's awkward, to say the least, and it highlights just how disconnected Drake might be from the people around him. When you're in such a high position, maybe it's easy to forget that not everyone sees things from your perspective. And then, after his speech, came another strange moment. Drake had the DJ play Beyoncé's Me, Myself, and I. Now, I love that song, don't get me wrong, but the choice here was odd, to say the least. It's a song about independence, about dealing with betrayal and realizing that you got yourself in the end. And while it definitely ties into what Drake was feeling, it felt almost too on the nose. Here you have this deep, introspective song playing at a party that's supposed to be all about nostalgia and fun. It just added to the awkwardness of the whole situation. Like, I get what he was going for, but maybe this wasn't the right time or place. So why does Drake feel this way about his friendships in the industry? When you look at his past, it's easy to see how things might have gotten complicated. He's had his fair share of conflicts, whether it's with Kanye, Pusha T, or others. Over time, those relationships have soured, and you can't help but wonder if Drake feels that the people around him only see him for what he can offer, not for who he really is. That's got to be tough. When you're at the top of the game, it's hard to know who's genuinely there for you and who's just there for the perks. And let's face it, Drake's success has probably isolated him in some ways. The more powerful you become, the fewer real connections you're able to maintain. Van Lathan's tweet really nailed it, though. People who once tolerated Drake's behavior, whatever that may have been, don't have to anymore. And that's a harsh reality. When you're in a position of power, people will often play along because they benefit from being associated with you. But as soon as they don't need to, they'll show you how they really feel. It's a lesson that a lot of people in the industry, not just Drake, have had to learn the hard way. But there's another aspect to this that I think is worth talking about: Drake's image. Lately, there's been a growing sentiment that he's becoming a bit out of touch. Whether it's his behavior at events like this or the way he handles certain situations, people are starting to view him as a little corny or overly emotional. And I get it. There's a fine line between being open about your feelings and coming off as out of touch with the reality of those around you. In this case, Drake might have crossed that line, playing me, myself, and I at a party right after a speech about fake friends. It just didn't land the way he probably thought it would. At the end of the day, this whole situation really comes down to the complicated relationship between fame and friendship. Drake's rant about fake friends reflects a broader issue that a lot of celebrities face. When you're at the top, it's hard to know who's truly there for you. People change, relationships evolve, and sometimes you find yourself questioning who you can really trust. And maybe that's what Drake's going through right now. It's a tough lesson, but one that comes with the territory of being one of the biggest stars in the world. One thing worth considering is whether the isolation Drake's feeling is something that comes from being in the industry for as long as he has. There's a certain loneliness that creeps in when your success alienates you from others, and over time, that can wear on a person. Even though Drake has always seemed to have a close inner circle, when those relationships start to break down or change, it can feel like your entire world is shifting. You start questioning who's there for you, who's real, and who's just in it for the benefits. It's a cycle that can easily breed distrust and cynicism. In the end, maybe the real message here is that fame doesn't guarantee genuine friendship. Sometimes it's just you, yourself, and I. It's a harsh reality, but one that Drake and countless others in his position will have to navigate as their careers continue to evolve. Hopefully, that he finds a way to maintain those real connections that keep him grounded, even as the world around him continues to change. Do you think these experiences will affect the music he puts out in the future? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to drop a comment below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what you want to see in the next video.